Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the campus of the University of Kentucky. We are so thrilled that you are here today. Welcome. This is a cold day, but we're going to heat it up with some good information about the College of Medicine here. I'm Carol Elam, and I am the Associate Dean for Admissions, and this is my 25th year being the Admissions Dean here. But I'm telling you that because this is the record-breaking year. This is the record-breaking year. In 1 year, our applicant pool this year went up 27%. This is a gigantic increase. We have almost 3,000 students this year who applied for a seat in the College of Medicine's entering class. When I first started doing this, we had about 1,500 students who applied 25 years ago. So in 1 year, great growth. And one of the things that I hear when I go out on the road and talk to applicants is the University of Kentucky, it's hard to get in there. Let me say this year, it's been particularly hard to get in there. And the students who are here represent the best of the best. So I would like to just take a moment and give them a hand for everything that they've accomplished to get to this point. That's all right. I saw one or two parents give their child a hug, and a hug is well deserved, probably on both sides. The students need to be sure they hug them back as well. Now, so what is the point of today? Well, at this point in time, I think a lot of you have already made the decision of where you want to go to medical school. In fact, many of you have said, I'm coming to Kentucky. A lot of you are wearing blue. I'm going to be listening for parents to say what my child wanted for Christmas was UK sweatshirts, and that's what they got. Those are the things I'm going to be listening for at the reception. And I know that a lot of students indicated during their interview and in subsequent correspondence to our College of Medicine that Kentucky is my choice of medical schools, is where I'm coming. That's great. Some of you are still making up your mind. So I hope for those of you who are absolutely affirmed, I'm coming to UK, this is a great confirming day. For those of you that are still making up your mind, I hope we turn your head, and that is our goal. Let me tell you what we have planned for you today. It's a two-part program. The first part is going to be of interest to everybody, I think, and that is medical school is expensive. How do you pay for it? We are very blessed to have Julie McDaniel and Brendan McCarthy, who together are our financial aid office, and they are going to talk to you about the financial aid process. They're also going to talk to you a bit about ways to pay for your medical education. Following that, we will have an intermission, and then we'll come back and talk about our curriculum. We want to spend some time strutting our best stuff about what the curriculum is like here, what the learning environment is like here, who our teachers are, who our students are, and to give you a feel for the place and what your medical education would be like here at UK for the 4 years you would be here. And the other thing that we have done that's a bit new this year, and I hope you'll find fun and exciting, is we will have, really at the time of the reception, a series of tables set up where we have invited different folks to come and talk to you if you would like to talk to them about their various programs. So we have representatives from our Kentucky Rural Physician Leadership Program, our Western Kentucky Initiative. We also have representatives from the military, from Global Health. I know many of you all are interested in our translational research program, where you can actually start taking a little medical school class, a mini course before school starts about translational science. We have representatives from that group here. And we also have representatives from Visit Lex. So for those of you all who are new to our beautiful city and want to learn more about it, we have folks that can tell you more about it. So we've tried to think of things that would help you become educated about what the school is like and what the environments are like and what the special programs are like. So that's what our day is. And I think that what I would like to do now is to introduce to you our Director of Financial Aid, Julie McDaniel, who will give you a workshop on financing your medical education.
Thank you, Dr. Elam. I want to welcome everyone. I've corresponded with many of you all before you even arrived today. I also want to take this opportunity to introduce Brendan McCarthy. He's the Associate Financial Aid Director and Associate Registrar. So he wears two hats. I only wear one. I'm the Financial Aid Director, so he does kind of double duty for the registrar and for me. So let's get started because I know we're just running a little behind. But I want to welcome you. You are the class of 2019. And this is Financing Your Medical Education, and we kind of want to make this fun. So bear with me as we go through this. And this is the agenda that I'm going to cover today: the cost of attendance, your loan and scholarship resources, the application process, debt management. I'm going to touch on repayment options. Those change every year. But I'm going to touch on what is available to our students right now, things to consider before medical school, and then I'll leave some time at the end for your questions, and I'll try to answer them. And so where do you start? And you need to know your cost of attendance. You need to understand all your financial aid options. And we do stress that you manage your money very wisely. And planning and finding support along the way is where Brendan and I come into play. So I told you we're going to make this fun, so that's why you have the clickers. So you only need to be interested in the top line, the 1, 2, 3, or the ABC. So these are some of my favorite game shows. So we're going to try. Financial aid is typically not real interesting. It's a little boring, a little dry topic. But Brendan and I find it very interesting. So we hope you do too. So before I start, I want to tell you a little about myself. I have two grandsons that live in Louisville. And so Mom and Dad lined up before Christmas to get Christmas pictures with Santa, and this is what happened. So Baby was not so happy to get his picture taken with Santa, but Big Brother was. So this is our sample slide. So I want you to guess what my grandsons' names are. Okay, so the next slide, these are the selections, and you get 10 seconds to make your selection. Okay, well, it's Asher and Ellis. So, okay. So you guys failed that one. But no, that's okay. So let's get on. Okay, so know your cost of attendance. So the medical school, our cost of attendance for 2014, 2015, as you can see, the in-state and the total cost of attendance includes your living expense budget. I also compared a private in-state. This is from a national compensation for the EE&C, where I get the numbers for the private in-state. So the total cost of attendance in a private medical school would be a lot more than what you would incur at our college. And again, the tuition fees are established around April or May by the Board of Trustees, excuse me, at the University of Kentucky. Brendan, excuse me, Brendan and I don't make up these numbers. So the board actually determines the cost. Your tuition also includes all your university fees, which total around $1,500 a year. So, and I'll tell you a little more about our tuition guarantee. And here's the sample cost of attendance. And as you can see, the resident, I can get my pointer working here. Let's go back. Okay, so the resident tuition includes all, these are some line items that are sort of required. The first 3 lines are required fees, and the rest are just actually, we make a guess of kind of what it's going to cost. And same as the living expense, we do take a living expense survey to kind of see what the rent is in the area. Gas has been going down, so we have not touched the transportation budget too much. So on the living expenses, you can kind of see we allow you in a 10-month budget around $2,000 a month if you stretch that over 12 months. So we can only budget you for the months that you're enrolled. So you're only enrolled for first, second, and fourth year for 10 months and third year for 12 months. So third year, you actually get more living expense money. I hope that makes sense. But the Department of Education has some very strict rules, and we must follow those. And here's another one of our voting slides. So again, you get 10 seconds. What percent of students apply for student financial aid at the University of Kentucky College of Medicine? Okay, now we do have international students. International students are not eligible for federal financial aid. So they must seek out a private lender or have their own sources of income to pay for their education. And the tuition guarantee, I promised I was going to touch on this. In 2007, the tuition guarantee was actually launched as a pilot program. And we're one of 4 colleges in the nation that actually offer the tuition guarantee. And this offers the incoming class a set tuition for the next 4 years of their medical education. So if the student went on, say, a pathology leave between second and third year and then rejoined the class, they would revert back to the tuition that they started with. I hope that makes sense, but you can kind of gauge how much the medical education is going to cost with our tuition guarantee over 4 years. That is not going to change. The tuition across the nation has went up 3 to 6% across the board for every college. And here's your financial aid options. This is probably the most confusing part of borrowing. Most students, our graduate professional students, have never borrowed federal loan funds before. So the Department of Education actually sets the interest rate every July 1st. So the 6.21% is fixed. That's for 14-15. For 15-16, we won't know till July. So it's a fixed rate, which is good. Now the Grad Plus is a higher interest money. It's actually based on your credit of the student. You can get a cosigner if the student would have some negative credit on their credit report. The private loans, we do not recommend. Most of those have a variable rate. And so they can fluctuate from anywhere from 5 to 15 to 18%. So the federal loans actually have another guarantee. If something were to happen to the student, death or permanent disability, and they've incurred all of this educational debt, the debt is actually discharged by the Department of Education on those 2 circumstances at any point during repayment. So I just want to make that point clear that even if you have a cosigner, they're still dischargeable in death or permanent disability. Now the Grad Plus and all the private loans are based on the credit of the student, and many students are unaware that they actually do have a credit score. So I'm going to kind of go over that. And here's a sample financial aid award. We'll get those out to the students probably around the middle of June of this year. So the first table actually shows the cost of attendance for an in-state first-year student, which includes tuition, fees, and living expenses. The unsubsidized, the $42,722, is an aggregate the Department of Education sets for a 10-month budget. We cannot exceed that in the unsubsidized loan funds. That's why you go to the next tier of money, which is the Grad Plus. So the next table actually shows an in-state student with a scholarship. So then, in essence, we reduce the Grad Plus. So if the scholarship is more than, say, $20,000, then we would eliminate the Grad Plus and then also subsequently reduce the unsubsidized loan funds. Okay, here's another voting slide. What is the percent of students receiving some type of scholarship at the University of Kentucky College of Medicine? Okay, the polling's closed, and that's great. You guys got that right. So about 42%, and we take care of around 509 students. And here's what the scholarships are actually based on. Your academic merit are taken from your MCAS application and your interviewer notes. We do have a 10-member student financial aid committee that does a very thoughtful and thorough review of the entire applicant pool before arriving at the scholarship recipients. We're going to announce those this year around February 15th, which is on a Sunday, so probably that Monday, the 16th. We keep the same date every year. And I don't want to discourage you if you don't necessarily get a scholarship as an incoming student. Does not mean that you won't have an opportunity to apply for scholarships in the future while you're an upperclassman. We have very specific scholarships. So if you haven't had a chance to look at our website, we list all of our scholarships. The service-based, again, Dr. Elam mentioned that the military are here, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army are here to discuss any of the military options. We have a lot of HPSP students already enrolled. Brendan and I have to take care of those also. Excuse me. If you have VA benefits, we also take care of those. So you'd have to come to us if you have any of the Chapter 30, 31, or 33, or the Yellow Ribbon Program. The University of Kentucky does not. We only offer that to undergrad. And the National Health Service Corps is another program that is gaining a lot of popularity at our school. So again, you must seek those out on your own. The Primary Care Loan Program also is a service-based program. I'll talk to you about that if you have any specific questions about that. We typically don't get students in the Primary Care Loan Program until you're maybe at the end of third year and the beginning of fourth year. And I can explain that to anyone that's interested. The financial aid is a step-by-step process. We don't send you out a packet in the mail. We're trying to go green. We try to save everything electronically. We are trying to go paperless, but it's kind of an impossibility right now. So eventually, hopefully we'll get there. You do need to complete the FAFSA. So the FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid. You also need to e-sign your master prom note if you're going to borrow money. You e-sign it with your FAFSA PIN, okay? So that's why it's very important. If you know your PIN, always remember your PIN. Keep it somewhere safe. And then you need to complete an entrance interview. The Department of Education requires you to complete an entrance interview. They want to make sure that you know all your rights and responsibilities as a borrower from the Department of Education. So it's kind of a lame little test, but you have to answer the questions like, do I have to pay this money back? Yes. Can they garnish my wages if I don't pay this back? Yes. So questions like that. So it's not real hard. April 1st is kind of our deadline for all of that information. You also need to complete an institutional application. That's an internal document that Brendan and I use that actually says to us what you want to borrow. If you want to borrow the max budget, we'll get you the maximum in the Ed Sub and the maximum in the Grad Plus. And you have to follow all those other steps that we'll give you. And it's 8 steps. Promise you it's not hard. We give you really very explicit instructions how to apply for financial aid. And then like I mentioned in a prior slide, June 15th, award letters will be available at the MyUK portal, which is unique to the student. You're the only one that can log on there to actually see your information. Your award letter will be there. You can pay there. You can see your grades there. It's kind of your portal. You set up your direct deposit there. There's lots of things you do at the MyUK portal. Okay, and like I said, complete your FAFSA. And so this is required every year that you request a student financial aid. January 1st, it was open for the 15-16 year. The federal student ID, this just came out yesterday in our NASFA newsletter, will replace the PIN, but it won't be available till spring. So that means you'll still have to request a PIN if you don't have a PIN. I hope that makes sense. But then eventually you'll be able to change that to your own 4-digit student ID that you actually select, but not yet, okay? And April 1st is the priority deadline for the UK College of Medicine for all of our materials. And also it's kind of a national deadline for your FAFSA. And the University of Kentucky College of Medicine school code, you need to put this on your FAFSA. We'll send this out with the instructions, is the E00588. And there are some programs that require parent income. We do not require it on your FAFSA. So you do not need to include it. I know I've had many students say, well, I think that'll help me. It's not going to help you. It's not going to hurt you. So if you want to put it, that's awesome. There's an IRS data retrieval tool that you use to actually click on your income. if you have income or file taxes, or there's an IRS data retrieval tool for your parents. So you don't need to dig out all those tax forms. But if you don't want to include parent income, we do not require it. And this is your lender. 2008, Department of Education took over all the lending. There used to be some private lenders. You may have heard of Sallie Mae. They're now a loan servicer. So they used to actually give the student the money and also service the loan. So in 2008, Department of Education took care of over all the lending in the whole United States. So this is the website you go to do your master prom note, your entrance counseling, your exit counseling. So this is kind of a website that you'll have to put in your favorites. And this is the class of 2014 indebtedness. And of course you can see all schools, UK College of Medicine, and then I also compared the public schools and the private schools. And I want to note that 84% of all graduates report having some type of educational debt. And this is 79% of all graduates report debt of $100,000 or higher. Okay, I said I was going to go over the federal loan options, and this is where maybe your head starts to spin. And sometimes it does spin for Brendan and I, because students don't have a cookie cutter financial aid portfolio. So we don't have just a student. We have married students that have combined debt. They have dependents. So it gets very complicated. One has a 3-year residency. One has a 5-year residency. So it gets very complicated as far as the repayment options are concerned and what the student is actually able to pay during residency. When the student has maybe a $200,000 federal loan debt and they're making $50,000 a year. So the first is forbearance. Forbearance means while you're in residency, if you choose, you do not need to make any payments. So the interest continues to accrue on your loans. It's about $5 a day on $40,000 at 6.8. That's at 6.8. So that's kind of an average. So forbearance is probably not the best course of action to take while you're in residency, but for many students, that's an option because they cannot afford a minimum payment. The income-based repayment, for any students that have prior loans, you may be eligible for the income-based repayment. That's 15% of your adjusted gross income after you file taxes. That's where it gets tricky if you have if you're married, they have an income, you have a combined income, then that 15% is actually a high payment. So the pay-as-you-earn, if you've never borrowed from undergrad, any of you have never borrowed from undergrad, you'll qualify for the pay-as-you-earn, which is 10% of your adjusted gross income. So that's after taxes, your AGI is 10%. So for most students, the minimum payment may be $300, $350, maybe under $200 if you have dependents. Okay, because we've had many students with 5 children. We had a student that graduated a couple years ago with 5 kids. His AGI, and after we did all the calculations, he owed 0. But it's still qualified as a payment under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So let me explain the Public Service Loan Forgiveness. So you have to be in the IBR or payee, and you must work for a nonprofit, UK, U of L, any hospital, clinic that's considered a 501c3. You must make 120 payments, residency counts, and after 120 payments, that's 10 years or maybe longer for some, anything that's left of your loan is actually discharged by the Department of Education, and you do not pay the taxes on that. Okay, so now there's some talk in Congress that they want to cap that, but so far, nothing has been done. So for you students that are signing a master prom note, you should probably be grandfathered in this because there's been no legislation that has been passed, okay? So I hope your brain isn't full because his brain is full. So after I go through all of the repayment scenarios, I know many of our students' heads just spin. So let's get on. And what % of borrowers take longer than 10 years to pay off their debt? And you have 10 seconds. And this is medical students in repayment. Okay, polling's closed, and the answer is 17%. And we do offer debt management classes. We try to offer a monthly debt management class. We open it up to dental and medical students. So, and some questions we get occasionally, is the investment worth it? So I showed you in a previous slide, only 17% of borrowers take longer than 10 years to repay their debt. We do have the lowest default rates in the graduate professional schools. University of Kentucky has the lowest default rate in the state. So that's something to be proud of. We think that we do a pretty good job when we do exit counseling for our students that graduate. So they, typically students do not default on their loans. And then 78% said educational debt is not a major factor in plans following graduation. And doctors are in the top 5% of wage earners in the United States. And what is the average salary of a family practice physician? And you have 10 seconds. This is from a national compensation survey, so they take the high and the low across the United States. Okay, polling's closed. And if you said 182,728, you are correct. And I mentioned in the agenda that we were going to talk about things to consider before medical school, and one of those is your residency. Are you in-state or out-of-state, and how do I establish in-state residency? You need to actually go to this website. They have a person, there's actually 2 people on main campus that does a very thoughtful review of your residency application to determine if you would be considered an in-state resident. And again, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but again, be sure to check out the policies. They do have some pretty hard and fast rules, and also there's some application deadlines. So for fall, the application deadline is in September. But if you're granted in-state residency in the fall, it's retroactive to the beginning of the semester. I hope that makes sense, because you guys will be starting in July. Another thing to consider is your credit score. The Grad Plus and all private loans, many students in 4th year take out private loans. I can explain that to anyone that wants to know about the private loans in 4th year. But the annualcreditreport.com is actually free. So that will show you if you have any negative credit reports on your credit. So, for instance, we had a student that came in and he was denied a Grad Plus loan. He thought his roommate paid his water bill. Landlord turned him in to collections for water bill. So then he had the negative reporting on his credit report, unbeknownst to him. So be sure to check that out. The Quizzle.com and the Credit Karma is kind of an instant credit score. So credit scores are probably like, for students, probably like, I have no idea what my credit score is. But if you've ever borrowed money to buy a car or a mortgage, they pull your credit. So I'm going to kind of show in some subsequent slides what makes up your credit score. And what is the average credit score in the United States? Okay, you have 10 seconds. The low is 450 and the high is 850. Okay. Very good, 689. Kind of surprises you. And these are factors influencing your credit score. The payment history, how long you've had a credit card, but how well you pay it off, makes up the majority of your FICO score. So again, be sure to pay down your credit card debt if at all possible. The average undergrad graduates with around $5,000 worth of credit card debt. Department of Education does not recognize consumer debt as an eligible expense. They don't recognize engagement rings, veterinarian bills either, and we've had all those questions. So again, it's only educational debt only. So as I said before, try to retire your consumer debt if at all possible. And create a spending plan. I don't think we can stress this enough. We give you around $23,650, which with the curriculum budget, it's around $2,000 a month if you stretch that out for 12 months. And for our single students, it's very doable. For our students that have a family, we make budget adjustments to accommodate their circumstances. And this is not a picture of Brendan or me. We are not loan sharks. So we are here to help you. So I want to just remind you that we have a very open door policy. We're always one of us is always in the office. If students just have general questions or in financial problem, we have emergency loans that we've done a ton of before the holiday break. Many students were out of money, couldn't pay their January rent. So we have a $2,000 interest-free emergency loan that's kind of a bridge until you get your spring funds. And we do bill by semester, so just to keep that in mind. So I want to open up the next 15 minutes or so for questions, and I'll try to answer those, and I'll try to repeat those. So anybody have any questions? I know I went through that really quickly. I'll be happy to answer questions. And in years past, we've had lots of questions.
What is the average credit score for you to qualify for that plus loan?
The average credit score to qualify for a Grad Plus loan, you cannot have any negative credit on your credit report. That's kind of the key. Now, you can rehabilitate your credit. So many students have done that. You have to pay off what's on your credit report that's negative, and then you have 90 days, and then they have to take it off, and then you can reapply. You can also get a co-signer on your Grad Plus. We've had that quite a few times. So any other questions? Yes?
Undergraduate loans carry over.
Okay. Okay. That's a really good question. How do undergrad loans carry over into medical school? Okay, 6 months after you graduate from undergrad, you're going to go into repayment. So your loan servicer, there's 4 big ones, Great Lakes, Sallie Mae, Nelnet, and Fed Loan Servicing are going to be knocking on your door going, how do you want to repay this? For the students that are enrolled in Brennan's registrar, we'll get you enrolled, and then we send information to the clearinghouse, which sends that to lenders that say you're in school now. So you're subsidized, your interest-free loans remain interest-free. Your Perkins loans also remain interest-free. Your unsubsidized loans from undergrad continue to accrue interest, but you get an in-school deferment, which means you don't need to make any payments. So you can defer all those loans for 4 years, and you can continue to defer those in residency if you take a forbearance. Okay, hope that makes sense. Other questions? Yes?
I just graduated, so I'm going to technically have to start paying that before I'm interested.
Okay, so if you graduate in December of 2014, 6 months, that's the end of June, you'll have a payment probably July 1st. Unless you take an economical hardship, like you're not employed, you don't have any income, you'll have to arrange that with your loan servicer. We actually gave you a little link in our there's a packet of information that links you to the National Student Loan Database System, and that's where all your federal loans are housed. It actually shows the interest accrual. It also shows your loan servicer. Again, those 4 big loan servicers, that's who you contact. All their phone numbers are there. But now if you have issues, give me a call. I can help you. We've got a school line, so we have ways to get around some of the loan servicer issues. Other questions? More questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate your attention, and welcome.